Hey.
How's it going, brother?
Man. Oh, man, going well. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, brother.
Yeah, you know what? This is the actually first time I've ever done it.
Oh, nice.
And I was gonna try to. My whole idea initially was to get it all fancy, and then Paul said he was like, "No, just do
start
it. You know? Just start it. You'll get better as you do it." So I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, just start it. Just start it, man. I'm happy to be. I'm happy to be on it.
I appreciate that, man. So how you been doing?
Bro, I've been doing good, man. I've been really busy. I'm preparing for the army. It should be shipping out soon. I have my ship day is going to be delayed a little bit because of the COVID thing, and I had to figure out a new MOS. But I've also I put out a DVD on knife fencing, and just been trying to promote it. I got a lot of people buying it. They're really happy with it, and so that's basically what I've been up to lately.
Wow, man, that sounds like you got a lot of life-changing events going on.
Yeah, brother.
I don't know if I'm in the army myself, man. So if you ever been there for a while, so if you need anything, you know, as a mentor or what, tell you the ropes, man. I'm there for you.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, before we get started,
about stuff actually.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, for the people, I definitely want to talk more about that DVD.
Cool.
I want to see how you got started, how you did it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
How you're marketing it. But for the people who are going to view, because what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take this, I'm going to post it, and then I'm going to invite every single PFS instructor to comment, to view it, and hopefully they can glean something from it. Maybe they can add something to it.
Yeah.
And it's all part of that internal mentor program.
That sounds
being
awesome.
An instructor with us. That's cool, man. So for the people that don't know you, have not met you,
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, so my first art was actually judo. My dad started teaching me judo as a kid, and then he put me in some judo classes. I really liked it, and it wasn't until I got a little older that they showed me my first Bruce Lee, and I was hooked. You know what I mean? I was like, oh man, you know what I mean? Like, this is it. You know what I mean? This is so badass. And you know, I got really deep into him and his books and stuff like that. And actually, it was my cousin who got me into him. And my cousin competed in some kickboxing and karate tournaments. He was more of a striker. And my cousin gave me 2 books. And the 2 books was the Tao JKD and Paul Vunak's, what was it called? Anatomy of a Street Fight. That was his first book that he put out. Yeah. And I was like, I read those 2 like, man, this is so awesome, right? And then I had, there was no real Jeet Kune schools around, so you know, I kind of gone to other things, and you know, there's sports and music and stuff like that. And then I started training in Silat, okay, under an instructor called Santiago Dobles. I trained with him for 3 years. I also trained in wrestling, shoot wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. I did that for about 3 years. Also, at the same time, I was doing Silat. And then I went out to California, and you know, I was partying out there, doing my music thing and stuff like that. I had stopped training. And then, you know, one day I was just like, man, you know, I need to start training again. I was getting all out of shape. You know, I started getting some belly fat, you know what I mean? Like, you know, once you pass, you know, once you get into your later 20s, you know, your metabolism starts slowing down. And I was like, you know, I really want to get back into martial arts. And I started thinking back, and I was like, man, why don't I hit up Paul Vunak? And, you know, I looked him up, and he was in San Diego. My family was in San Diego, and I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I had moved from Miami out there, and so I called him up, and I finally got to train with him, you know, and that first session changed me, you know what I mean, and from then on I got focused in on Vunak's system, you know what I mean. And really, you know, I've trained with other people. You know, I've gotten to train with Danny Osanto, some catch wrestlers, Joel Bain. More recently, I got to train with Hector Lombard. But really, Vunak's system is like the heart of what I do. And the other stuff that I've done is really through Vunak, who really encouraged me to continue training. Because eventually I started running out of money in California, and I had to come back. And he connected with me with Pedro Rodriguez, who's another great instructor you should definitely have on here. And he encouraged me to research, you know, my own experience, apply that JKD philosophy, and just train as much as possible under different instructors. And every year I go back there and still, you know, stay loyal to Paul, because he's one of the most open-minded individuals, and he's really concerned about your progress, not about you, you know, just doing exactly what he does, but finding your own truth.
Yeah, yeah. What was your first impression of him when you first met him?
Man, I was just stunned, you know what I mean? And like, I remember, you know, doing some of the drills with him, you know, how, you know, forearm to forearm, and, you know, Huba, and some of the trapping drills that we did, just how strong he was. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, man, this guy, you know, feeling his energy, you know what I mean? And then doing the grappling, you know what I mean? Just feeling how strong he is, even, you know,
yeah.
Now as he's aging, he still got it. You know what I mean? He's still so fast. He's still, you know, it's crazy. And he says, he's like, you know, as fast as I am, wait till you see Danny Osanto. I finally got to train with Danny Osanto last year. I was like, at 83, I was just blown away. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, tell me, what are some of your current goals?
So basically, you know, it was at one of Vunak's seminars, the 2017 edge weapons seminar, that I realized, because like I said before, I was really more into the striking and the grappling and stuff like that. And, you know, I still trained weapons, but I was like, oh, okay, I got this. You know what I mean? But that seminar, we did a lot of sparring, weapons sparring. And I realized how much I was lacking there. And I told Vunak, I'm like, man, like, I feel like I need to work on my weaponry, you know? And he goes, well, Dax, when you go back, just try to train as much as possible, train different styles, and research your own experience. You know, he really encouraged me. So, you know, that was about 3 years ago. And you know, like I said, I still train my striking and my grappling, but it was really 3 years ago that I was that really hit me. I'm like, okay, I need to improve upon my weapons. And I got to train under Balintawak, under Bobby Tabuada. I got to train under Apollo Ladra, Paquita Tersha. And, you know, everything I would learn, I would try to put into sparring. And it wasn't until I got into fencing that, and I was reading about fencing, you know, and really through Bruce Lee's books. Not a lot of people notice this, but in the Tao JKD, this acknowledgement section, for you people at home, go ahead and read it when you guys get a chance. He took from a bunch of fencing books, and there's actually pictures of Bruce Lee as a kid with fencing swords with his brother Peter Lee. And I was like, you know, okay, Filipino martial arts comes from Spanish fencing, and then Bruce Lee stuff comes from more French fencing. I'm starting to see a connection. Maybe I should take up fencing, and I started with saber, small sword or epee, and it was really foil, but it was really through epee that I found my strength and what I really love, because in epee is where you get the idea of interception, the art that we do of intercepting. Well, that's the whole mentality of epee. And kind of real quick, the story of epee fencing was there was these traditional, what they call classical fencers, okay? And their weapon was the small sword, right? And there was this guy, Jules Jacob, and a couple other guys too, that believed that these fencers had gotten too sporty and too academic. And form and being very elegant with your fencing, whereas the epee guys were like, we believe in actual combat, And what happened with foil doing a lot of duels in France is that a lot of double hits, like I would hit you in the heart, but you would hit me in the side or in my lung,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And maybe you died right away, but I would die, a couple minutes later, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
it's like a cockfight.
Yeah. So in epee, they were like, well, why don't I just hit your hand first? Like the snake principle, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I hit your hand first, you're not going to be able to hold your weapon, and then I could circle around and then hit your heart or hit your lung or just let you go. And then in a short amount of time, Jules Jacob's students, right, they practicing this new non-classical style fencing, right, were able to destroy the traditional fencers. And there was this guy, Aldo Nadi, who was around at this time that fencing really started develop. He was big into Dagger. He wanted to bring back the Dagger. And in France, they had something called the dueling daggers, which actually this is a practice weapon of it right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce Lee was big into Aldo Nadi. So then I was like, man, I should look up this dagger fencing stuff, and I started training it. I found some great instructors, and then I started sparring, right? And I was like, man, this really works well for me for my style, and I started putting up videos of me sparring against different people and stuff like that, and basically with the whole COVID thing, right, I had started losing a lot of students, but I started putting up these videos of me sparring with people, and people started asking, they're like, oh, what is that, BJJ practitioners, one of them being Corey Scott, who just won the NAGA championship out in Austin, Texas, and another guy's a local home hero here in Miami, Hector Lombard, former MMA champion and judoka. They kind of hit me up. They saw my videos and they were like, "Hey man, we kind of want to learn this stuff because fencing is like the best thing to learn right now during COVID. You're wearing a mask, you're wearing gloves, and you have to keep especially for this style fencing, the French style fencing. It's what we would call largo mano in Filipino martial arts, right? It's very long distance, right? And then that's basically what kind of led me to this a Dagger DVD. Now, real quick, in the evolution, right? You can see these are our old school French daggers, right? Well, in World War I, in the trench in the trenches, right? The first weapons in the trenches were like small bats, and then they would take shovels. They would cut off the handle of the shovel and sharpen the edges of it, and it was almost like a tomahawk, right? But these were head-heavy weapons, so they were kind of slower. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a light collie stick that you could move around. It was a heavy weapon, right? So the French, being the dagger duelists that they were, they came up with this guy, which is just a dagger made of rebar, right? And this was a lot more nimble, a lot more faster, right? And really, even though I'm showing you these different daggers, the system, anything with a good point, you can apply it, because the thrust, right, or what Bruce Lee calls the straight lead, right, is the main attack of this style fencing. You know what I mean? Most knives don't have a lot of chopping power. It's not like the Filipino knives, that the bolos that, you know, you could cut somebody's arm off with one hack. But a lot of modern day knives are you know, have blades similar to this. You know, they're not very thick and heavy blades. So your main attack should always be the thrust, not necessarily a cut, in my opinion, right? You know, find what works best for you.
Yeah. Well, you're the expert. You got a DVD.
Yeah. You know, I'm still working on it. You know, and so leading with this, there's also you know, ground fighting stuff too, because in the trenches it was very close in. There was times that they would clash. They would go to the ground. There's something called the la lutte parisienne, which was French grappling, essentially. That they learned some catch wrestling and stuff from their interchanges with Britain and stuff like that. But basically the idea is you either want to stay in largo mano range and try to, you know, get the hands, right, and then circle around, get him in the chest, armpit, the neck, right? Or if you get in that middle range, which is, in my opinion, the worst range to be in, and that's what I see a lot of people practicing, this middle range, right?
Right.
But
you're giving away a lot of the content of the DVD.
Oh yeah.
But tell me, how did you create it?
Okay.
I mean, how does a guy like myself? I've never done a DVD before.
Yeah.
How do I create one, or how do I distribute it? What did you do?
Well, okay. So first you got to film it, right? And that took a while, because I had never really filmed the DVD. You know what I mean? I did a couple rough versions of it, and I wasn't happy with it. So I figured out the best backgrounds, right? A lot of times with a DVD, right, it's the angles that you pick, I realized, right, and the background, right? Because if the background distracts you, right, then you know, it's going to be hard to see what you're doing. And if your angle is off, right, and I found this out by watching other DVDs and realizing, man, I wish I would have picked this different angle, right? You gotta pick the right. Telling everyone, hey, you know, I got this DVD set coming up. Here's some videos of me sparring, and a lot of people were interested. Another thing that I recommend is, you know, social media, using different platforms. Like I would, there's a Facebook group for Dagger, and I would post on there constantly. So you could post it on anywhere. And you could also promote it. You know, you might have to pay a little bit for promotions, but that will help sell your product. And then me, I had the benefit of teaming up with Hector Lombard. I was teaching him some fencing, and he taught me some MMA. And he kind of pushed it into his you know, his social media network. You know what I mean? He kind of gave me some shout outs, and that helped generate steam. And what I really think, you know, in between us and what you're doing, which is great, is we got to start supporting each other. You know what I mean? Somebody puts out some material, well, we got to share that. You know, instead of sharing, all right, hey, let's share some guy that we don't, you know, and that's cool, you know. But we should share each other's material, you know what I mean, and help promote each other. I think that's really the key, you know, to this brotherhood of PFS is to stay united.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I'm doing this, because I felt like there was a gap between becoming a member and then what's next.
Correct.
There's a lot of guys, they have not even developed their profile.
Correct.
And when you're talking about networking, you know, I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
You know, one time I used to go to these mixers back in the day, and you would meet different business people. Well, I didn't represent martial arts in that context, but I would go there. And I remember one time, man, we met this guy, exchanged cards, told him, hey, yeah, I'll call you, and maybe we can make a deal. I got some ideas we can do. I call him up. And he's like, yeah, who is this? I'm like, so I reintroduced myself again. Yeah, we met at the, you know, blah, blah, blah. I told you I was going to call you up.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. He was like, yeah, what do you want? I'm like, well, we talked about we're calling. I said, look, I'm connected with the city. We can close out these streets. I got a couple people. We'll really promote the guys, you know, you guys' business, because I know you guys just opened up. The guy says, what it was kind of like a paint body shop, you know. And the guy told me, he says, I just rent a stall. He said, I said, okay. I said, well, I'm sure you and your partner, I mean, that's a pretty expensive rent. I know what the rent is around here. I said, you know, if you guys want to do something, we can help promote your business, you know. And this had nothing to do with me. I just was connected with the city. It's kind of like what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah.
But the guy didn't get it. He didn't get it, man. You know, and you know what? A couple months later, the whole business, and I'm not, the whole business folded. You know, and my guess, he was probably doing some paint right in his garage. He was probably told that he couldn't do that, so he had to go get a shop. He rented a space, and he didn't give a crap.
Right.
You know. And I've met, you know, that's the thing, man. It's just, I know it's awkward. You know, it's awkward, but if we can't talk to one another, if I can't call you up and say, hey, man, hey, I met you back in 2017 at that weapons seminar, you know, and I know it's out of the blue. And if you don't, like, say, oh, man, yeah, you know, I remember you, or how are you doing? You know, if we can't talk like a family, then how are we going to be able to help each other? You know what I mean? We're all in the same boat.
Absolutely.
So,
you know, and I would like to add something to that us being JKD and PFS guys, we're in a unique position over other martial arts. And allow me to explain that. So let's say I'm a jiu-jitsu instructor, right? And, you know, I got my curriculum, but there's another jiu-jitsu guy, you know, down the block, you know, or maybe, you know, 15 minutes away or something like that. Because now there's jiu-jitsu places all over there. So that's why I'm using this analogy, right? And let's say, you know, I'm really good at gi, right? And the guy down the block is really good at no gi, okay? Well, if I promote the no gi stuff, then maybe maybe I'm going to lose students, right? But with JKD, especially PFS, that Vunak is so big into us exploring and researching our truth. In PFS, there's so many people that have their own strengths. You know what I mean? And for example, you know, Pedro Rodriguez, you know, he cross trains. He's a black belt in Hapkido and Wing Chun and stuff like that. When I want to get my trapping down and my striking, my boxing, mixing that in, even with the wrist locks and finger locks, I would have never thought I'd be into that till I trained with Pedro, and he showed me some real cool stuff. Well, you know, I'm not that good at that, but you know what Pedro is. You know what I mean? There's this guy David Tice, who's now the one of the main grappling guys for PFS. Well, anything with, you know, catch wrestling, you know, judo, BJJ, you know, you could hit him up. You know what I mean? There's this other guy, Jason Daniel. He's here in Florida, up in Jacksonville. He's one of the best nunchaku experts I've ever seen in my life. So we all have we all PFS and we're all JKD, but we all have different strengths. We all have weaknesses, and we're all like, in this sense, we can all help each other out and allow each other to grow. You know what I mean? And I think your students will really appreciate that. You know what I mean? Because it's coming more from a place of honesty. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you know, I'm not a nunchaku expert. Go hit up Jason for a lesson. You know what I mean? Okay, cool. And then, and that's what Paul Vunak does. Paul Vunak has always been like, hey, go cross train, go do this. Hey, go train with. He told me to go train with the Valente brother at Jiu-Jitsu out here. I train with them. You know, he told me to train with Pedro. I train with Pedro. And because Vunak is so interested in your self-development, not just, all about Vunak, right? It makes me want to stay in PFS more because I'm like, man, this is an organization that we really care about each other's growth. You know what I mean? And now we just got to connect, like what you're saying, the mentor side, the business side, and help each other out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to hear more about your marketing action plan, how it got laid out, the different, I know you said, one of the things you said was really interesting was about the social media. You connected with other Facebook pages,
right? And
you would put your sparring. So it was almost like it was an indirect advertisement.
Yeah.
Almost like an indirect attack.
Yes.
And then you basically did you did attack by draw. So you drew them in because eventually they kind of familiarized with you. That was just one element you used, and that I think was and maybe a lot of people doing it. I never thought about it, but so I think that's pretty smart, and I learned that from you, man. I'm hoping that might help somebody else too.
Well, you know what? In Vunak's book, for a lot of you people out there that don't have it, the Martial Arts Bible, I have it somewhere. Here it is. He kind of has a recommendation in there that I kind of got from that, is that he kind of says something about staying practical in your videos, right? But adding just a little bit of flash as well. You know what I mean? So, you want to stay practical so that people see it works. I put actual sparring videos, not just me doing some fancy drills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the way I added something that was really cool was for it's an online DVD, right? But I made a cover, and the cover looks really freaking cool. You know what I mean? I put a lot of time into the cover, and it looks, really, that's like kind of the flashiness that I put to it. You know what I mean? And that kind of combination of practicality, right, and a little bit of zest, if you will, will kind of draw in.
Did you do that yourself?
Huh? Yeah, I designed it myself.
Did you do? Okay. Do you have a graphics background, or?
I don't, but I just worked on it a lot. I looked up some videos online, and it took me a while. I went through a couple of sketches. Same thing with the video. A trial by error, and now there's, luckily a lot of good stuff online, a lot of apps that you can download. And so I made a couple rough drafts, and the thing is to not put it out, until you find something you're really happy with. And then finally I got something with, and it's not too overly complicated, but it draws your attention. So you want most.
And how are you distributing this out?
Well,
how are you put together, and then is it on Amazon, or is it actually a DVD, or is it digital?
Well, right now it's all digital. You know what I mean? And I've been promoting just through social media, the platforms, and like I said, you could pay. So I actually have a one sparring video that you could promote it on Instagram, and it connects straight to Facebook. You know what I mean? And you could even set it for like $1. You know what I mean? And every time somebody clicks on it, right? Oh, what's this? Right? It will charge you a little bit. I forgot how much it is right now. But eventually, right now, I just started it. But that's what you just said, the second step, looking through some type of third-party seller like Amazon or something like that, to make a physical copy, right? That I could start selling it that way too.
Well, I like the digital.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot. There's no money involved. There's no mail. There's no, I didn't get it or it's damaged. You send it out, so that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really impressed. And you did this because you said that because due to COVID, it forced you to be creative and adapt.
Yes.
And so this was a really good thing.
Yeah, like Bruce Lee says, you got to be like water. You know what I mean? And I noticed a lot of people were doing virtual lessons. You know what I mean? And so I was thinking about that for a while, but then I was like, man, why don't I just make a DVD? And the reason why I chose DVD is because I thought of Paul Vunak. As a kid, I had bought a bunch of his DVDs, and Vunak was famous for the DVDs, right? And those DVDs changed a lot of people's lives, right? So instead of going virtual, right, I did what Vunak did, which is put out a little bit of material so that people you entice the people, you attack by draw, right? But then with the actual physical DVD, that's something, because I noticed that with virtual, like, let's say, if you do a virtual class, someone might not remember everything that you taught. But with a DVD or an online tutorial, people can rewind, they can watch it again and again, you know what I mean? And here's another thing that I did, is that I didn't just sell them the DVD, I opened up the stream for questions. So anyone who bought the DVD, I told them, hey, if you have any questions about it or you're unclear, or you want me to, even do another little video, clarifying some certain points of how to, how I'm holding the hand, what I'm doing with my wrist, stuff like that. So that was another thing that I think helped out, and a lot of people were kind of were drawn into, because they were like, oh man, usually when I buy a DVD, that's it.
That's it.
But this now, they have a direct contact with me, and people could write in questions and stuff like that, and people really like that. You know what I mean? Accessibility. I think a big reason why Paul's so successful, he has his phone number up on the side. You can call him right now. Anyone's out there that's going to train with Paul, you can go call him. If he doesn't pick up, he'll call you right back. Give him about 10, 15 minutes. He'll call you right back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And having that, it's more personal, instead of being like, oh, I've trained in some places, you call them, you email them, they don't write you back, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's too prestigious, I guess,
Yeah. He tells me all the time that people aren't calling him, I mean, so there's one of the things, we have that web app, right?
Yes.
So it's the website, but we have the web app, right? And so what I was going to do is that I know forums are very out of date.
Okay.
But it's still a good tool to be able to get discussions.
Yeah.
And I was gonna post something that talks about instructor, coach, and mentor. And there's a process. We want to move over to mentor, because mentor, there's just more value with that. It's more personal relationship.
Definitely.
So when you were talking about DVDs, I get a video, that's it. That's an instructional DVD. What you're really talking about is, hey, get the DVD. Hey, I'm a mentor.
Yeah.
I can tell you a little bit more of the details, something you didn't see, you have questions.
Yeah.
And Paul is always available.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's not, he doesn't claim to be the most technological guy. In fact, if you call his phone, he's gonna say, send me a text, and I will leave you. If I can't reach you, I will leave you a voicemail.
Yeah.
Because I don't text back. So, but anyways, hey, I want to put, after I post this, I want to get all of your contact information so that if people have questions, they can reach out to you.
Definitely.
And not just purchase the video, which would be a great example of what we can all do, and like you said, ask questions, but also just, if they're in town, they want to train with you. I know they're going to be joining the Army, so you're going to be, you may not be available, but hey, you could be stationed near somebody.
Exactly.
In which, or what have you. So, you know, but before we go, do you have any last thoughts, anything you want to make mention, or did we cover any? Is there anything else we want to cover before we let you go?
Man, you know, yeah. One last thing about the benefits of JKD over other arts. You know, that I think will help out other instructors is that, you know, for example, Hector Lombard's gym, when I trained out there, you know, those guys are warriors. You know, it's called Goat Shed.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys ever get a chance to check it out, those guys are warriors. You know what I mean? And they train hard, you know, hard sparring and stuff like that. Great place, right? And then you might get another place that's maybe more like, let's say, a Tai Chi place, right? That's more about spirituality and flow and, you know, health benefits and stuff like that, right? And then maybe you might get a Krav Maga place that's more just geared towards self-defense, you know. But really, JKD has all of that, right? Because, you know, you go back to Bruce Lee's book, you know, the Tao JKD, you know, one of the first chapters is fitness, okay? And, you know, like Bruce Lee says, you got to train every part of your body, right? There's also the psycho-spiritual chapters, you know, the philosophical side of Bruce, right? There's the all-out sparring that Bruce Lee, you know, when Bruce Lee said he had lost faith in the classical Chinese arts and he developed something from all-out sparring, you know, that he was doing with Ino Santo and his different students that you know, it's really through sparring, rolling. That's how BJJ guys and kickboxers get good, because they actual spar, right? So we kind of, I feel like JKD kind of has all of that, you know what I mean? And one of my ex-girlfriends, she wrote to me, she's like, Dax, you know, why don't you train, you know, you post videos of your martial arts, why don't you post videos of you training? And she's a personal trainer and she's a yoga instructor. She's like, why do you post, you know, inspirational quotes from Bruce Lee? You know what I mean? And that was a couple years ago. I was like, man, she has a solid point. You know what I mean? We have such a, you know, most people, I think, are just going for the self-defense, you know, a practical fighting art that they can learn. You know, they don't want to be professional fighters, like if you go to like just an MMA gym, right? They just want to be able to protect their families, you know what I mean? Both unarmed and with weapons. But some people, you know, maybe they're a little older or maybe they're going through some stuff, are more drawn to the philosophical side and the self-development, you know? And I just want people to remember that Bruce Lee, there's a quote in the Tao JKD, Bruce Lee says, Jeet Kune Do has two goals: to defeat the enemy in front of you, but to defeat the enemy within. You know, and that stuck with me for a long time. So I think us as JKD instructors, a big thing for our students when you first meet somebody is like, hey, what are your goals? You know what I mean? Just asking them, once again, that accessibility. You know what I mean? Self-defense, I think, is one of the main things for the majority of people. But it could be just people want it for they want to lose weight, you know? And we also have JKD guys who have gone on to professional combat sports. You know what I mean? So we can offer a little bit of everything, and I think that's one of the best things for instructors out there just starting out.
Absolutely, man. Hey, last question.
Go ahead.
This might be the most important thing I ask you.
Sure.
What is your absolute favorite Bruce Lee movie?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. All right. So my favorite one. Okay. Now, I love Enter the Dragon. I love everything. Right? But my favorite one is unfortunately the one that he never got to finish, and that's Game of Death. And all we really have is the last 30 minutes. Don't watch the full version of it because they did Bruce Lee cutouts, but it's free online. You can watch the last 30 minutes of Game of Death. And here's something that not a lot of people know about. Game of Death was, you know, Bruce Lee talks about how in his other movies, it's very easy to be flashy and put on a show with that, right?
Yeah.
And that he was unhappy with some of his earlier work because he was just trying to put on a show, you know what I mean? But that's not the way he would really fight, you know what I mean, doing super high kicks and stuff like that, you know? But Game of Death was supposed to be Jeet Kune to the world. There's also Longstreet, right? The show he did in Longstreet. But in Game of Death, he goes up these different levels, right? He fights a Hapkido guy, actually, I think. He fights Danny Inosanto, okay? And he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, okay? And you see, really, that's towards the end of Bruce Lee's life, and you see what JKD was evolving into, right? Definitely there was strikes, right? But there was a lot of groundwork. You know, Bruce Lee does several chokes in that movie. He does the head and arm choke, what we call, you know, the triangle. He does the bulldog choke, right, which was not seen until recently in MMA. People doing the bulldog choke from catch wrestling.
Dax, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You know what? I think it stopped recording.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, am I frozen right now?
You're frozen, but it says live.
Is the thing, click on it and see if it's ticking.
No, it stopped recording, I think.
Oh. All right, man. Hey, it's not a perfect process, you know, but I think we got some good information.
Yeah, we definitely did.
I don't have any editing software. But, man, I appreciate it, man. I think I couldn't imagined having a better person as a first interview.
Yeah, you know,
I absolutely have the best story, man.
And you did a good job at directing it. You know what I mean? For real.
Yeah.